Welcome to my Honest View reviews. Straight to the point, no nonsense. This has all been paid for with my own money. Today we are on part 6 of our PSA AR-V project series, and we are tackling low light capability and pro cable management. An 8-inch handguard runs out of rail space incredibly fast. Today we are mounting a Streamlight ProTac Rail Mount 1LX, securing its remote pressure pad with a Shaffer M-lock mount, and routing all the loose wires cleanly using Strike Industries polymer rail covers and a generic Picatinny clips. We will finish by installing a Magpul M-lock hand stop to keep our support hands safe on this short platform. Let's get into it. So let's get to unboxing and getting everything ready to go. So we have our Streamlight, instruction manuals, extra battery, light itself. This part I'm not even going to bother taking out. That's basically zip ties and round mounts, but I have my own since I have the Strike Industry. I mean, not the Strike Industry, the Shaffer. You've got your Allen wrench. You've got the original that comes with it. It's just a pressure mount, but I didn't want the original. So I opted to purchase the one that has the pressure mount and the on-off button. So that way at any time I can hold my finger on it or I can click it and have it steady on. That was important to me. Of course, you have your parts, which will be your M-locks, your Allens, and what I will be changing the base to is the, I think it's a 45-degree mount. So we're going to be switching that one to this because it's not going to be on my Picatinny. The other thing we're going to be using is the Shaffer. That's this one. It also comes with 2 screws for mounting this pressure switch onto it, and that'll go right on our M-lock. All right, and then we'll worry about. So the plan is to put the 90-degree either here or here, depending on how it's going to run up against that. And then the Shaffer is going to go right up against, it's actually going to hit the edge, but that's going to be all right. We're just going to lock it in so we can get it in there. And then once we get those done, then we'll be able to get our hand stop on. So my original plan failed. The light is pushed up too hard against the front iron sight. The strikers didn't wire management it the way I wanted it to. I should have ordered the Shaffer with wire management. And with the hex rail, there's not a lot of space between each slot area and everything is getting crowded. So I found some options. I'm going to try out some RailScales. They're supposed to be very thin. They should fit better, give me the grip I want. I'm ordering a certain mount, which is an ARISAKA because I cannot pronounce it, but it allows me to adjust the distance on my Streamlight so that it doesn't hit the front iron sights. Other than that, on the next video series of the series, I will show what I did to complete that. For now, I'm going to move on to fixing the mechanical issue that I came across with the charging handle, and I'm going to show you what I did to do my timing to get within that 1/8 to 1/4 inch timing on the bolt carrier. So moving on, I'm going to address some of the things that I came across that I needed to fix or change as I was checking the gun. So one is the Macon Deadblow doesn't work well with the striker because it's too tight, it has a smaller tolerance on its diameter, so it was dragging on it. Macon said that it is designed to be with a regular spring. So I did order a spring coat white. This is just a regular spring for now until I get it. I got the spring coat white just because they will last a hell of a lot longer than this will. So that's one change I had to go back with. The other one is a charging handle. I'll get into that in a little bit. And the other part is timing for the bolt carrier. So with a bolt carrier, usually you're going to want 2/4 width from the stop to the end of your bolt carrier. So your bolt carrier, when it comes back into here, should stop and be 2/4 away, which is a 1/4 inch to an 1/8 inch. If you have that timing properly, you won't have as many failure to feeds, misfires, and other problems, and it won't gain so much momentum that it can damage your receiver. So with that, most people will throw in quarters. So you would throw in a bunch of quarters, keep adding and checking until you get to that point where it works and it's at the timing that you want. For me, I didn't like it, so I got what I think is called Acetal or Durell. They are a high tensile strength rod. They easily handle the amount of pressure on the gun. They're the type of product that it can handle chemicals, it can handle your bore cleaner, it can handle oil, you know, everything. There are certain things this is don't put on it. And then also it's very resistant to water, so it won't swell or break down or any other problem. So this type of rod is really well made and is going to last a very long time, hopefully, in the gun. So this is a 1-inch diameter. The problem is that spec-wise they say the buffer tube is 1 inch. It's not. It's just a hair under. It's more like 0.995, somewhere in that category range. So this doesn't fit. So what I did was I cut a piece off, which is not easy. I actually used a pipe cutter to make an indent in it that was perfectly centered, and then I cut it off. I cut it off longer so that way I had room to work with it. So then I drilled a hole through like this one, because you don't want to not let air out of your gun. You want that when your spring goes back, it puts pressure and you have air going back out. You want to make sure that it's not solid, that there is an air hole so that you get that flow of air. So I drilled the hole, then I hooked a small screw, long one, through it, bolted it down with some washers, and I hooked it into a drill. And then all you have to do is wrap this around it and turn the drill on, and it'll actually just smooth it out easily. I use 120 in the beginning to get a hard grind in the very beginning, and then I use 220 to just keep it nice and firm and light sanding. As I sanded it down, I would stop, take it out, test it into the tube until I got just enough sanded off that it slid in perfectly, went all the way to the back without catching. And then after that, I cut it down to make my mark. Now remember, if you're going to cut one of these down, you want to make it a little bit longer than what you actually want. So that way, when you cut it, I'm not going to be perfectly straight. So because of that, I then take sandpaper and I sand it down to get it nice and flat. So I have one right here in the tube. Let's see if I can show you, because I don't want to pull it completely out. So that is mine with the hole in it. So with that done, I can. So if you go all the way back, you should be 2/4. I wanted to do something other than quarters, because quarters will break down in the long run. You'll have problems. The spring can start grinding on them a little bit, and I just don't think the longevity of having quarters in your gun works for me. So that was my fix. On to the next issue. I had a Warhammer Mod 2. The problem with it was it was binding when it got to battery. And even though it was still locking in the battery, it wasn't in battery. So the best way I can explain it is that when you have your charging handle in, it should go all the way down and snap. And if you notice, it is all the way down to the very end, like it should be. The Warhammer was stopping there. That's not good. That's going to keep your gun out of battery. That is very dangerous. So thank God I noticed it before I went to the range to test it out. So because it was locked in, but it wasn't actually in position. It was actually locked in the battery, but it was actually sitting around there. So This one here. So I went with this one. I was told it would make sure it would fit, and it does. So this one worked out perfectly fine. It's not ambidextrous, but it does give me a better grip on the charging handle than the original. So that one I like. So that's what I wouldn't recommend getting a Warhammer for a PSA AR-V. Just because of the way they built it, it did not fit properly, and that was actually a big structural problem, and it could have caused a very major issue along the line. So that's out. I did test this with the spring. I had no problems at the range testing it out with that piece in it. So I was very happy with how that came out. So even though everything is on, I wasn't happy with the plan. I wasn't happy with how it finished. So I did order some parts. I'm going to be changing it out. In the next video in this series, I will show what I did to correct it to get it more professional. Hopefully everything works out. I also will be putting on the SBA 5 brace and the battery into it. And then the follow-up final series will be going to the range and testing it out with FMJs and jacketed hollow points to make sure that it isn't having any failure to feeds or anything else. The plan is to do a heavy day of like 200-300 rounds of FMJ and probably somewhere around 100-150 defensive rounds to see what works, and hopefully I don't have any failures. Let's go with the outro. Don't forget that because of platform safety rules, the hands-on tool work had to be trimmed for certain channels. If you want to see the raw, unedited workbench footage showing the full wire routing and torquing process step by step, check my honest view reviews on Rumble. See you on the next video.